Haslin stepped out of the car looking around cautiously. Police vehicles and officers had surrounded the isolated warehouse, their lights flashing in rhythmic urgency. Haslin glanced around nervously. "Are you sure about this, Wine? This place gives me creeps," she whispered. Wine tightened her grip on the camera bag. "We need to expose Dalton," Wine said in a determined tone. Haslin huffed. "Wine, we have police and other agencies for that," she said with a pout. Wine passed her a glare. "A few days ago, I almost had him. Had a camera set up and was ready to record his deal, but one of his goons spotted. I had to run before they caught me." Haslin's eyes widened. "Wine, why do you want to get into trouble? You're playing with fire. Your articles against Dalton are enough. Let the police handle him." She rolled her eyes. "Police are equally involved with them. I have seen that Officer John with Dalton several times. I have pictures of Dalton's man giving him something in secret." She shook her head, taking out her camera and draping it around her neck. "Stay here. I'll go inside and see if I can find something. Stay alert." She patted Haslin's shoulder. "Be careful, Wine." She nodded and stepped forward. Wine entered through the back door amidst the commotion. It was a huge warehouse. One could lose his way in it. "Sir, there is no sign of the smugglers," she heard someone say and turned on the recording on her camera. "Get all the kids and girls out of here safely. There must be something dangerous." She heard Jungkook alerting everyone. Wine followed the direction of their voices. There were 12 to 14 rooms, and Jungkook and his team were opening the doors and taking the girls and kids out. "Bloody jerk, as if we don't know you are involved with them," she thought bitterly and stepped forward. Most of the children's ages were from 4 to 7 years old. Her vision blurred, hearing their cries. The same cries of the past rang in her ears, followed by painful screams. She shook her head and took a deep breath. "What are you doing here? Most importantly, this was a secret mission. How did you find out about it?" He came towards her and asked with a frown. "None of your business," she said with disdain and stepped forward, but he held her arm and spun her around. "Get out of here." She pushed him, releasing her arm from his grasp. "I'm not leaving. Who knows what you are doing in the name of mission?" Jungkook shook his head. "Think whatever you want to. I don't have time to deal with you." He muttered through gritted teeth and walked away. Wine walked into one of the rooms where Jungkook's team was taking the children out. "Hey, don't cry. You're a brave little lady," she said to a little girl who was weeping uncontrollably. "I want to go home," she said between hiccups. "You'll go home. Stop crying." She hugged her and consoled her, followed by many other kids. The officers took them out as they stopped crying. Wine came out and saw Jungkook with his team when they heard faint sobs. "Have you checked all the rooms properly? Someone is still there. Go and check every place properly," he said furiously and followed the direction of sobs while Wine began checking the rooms with his team. They all came out but found no one. "No one is there, sir," he said to Jungkook, who was holding a little boy in his arms. "What about the other kids?" "We sent them with the child protection team." Jungkook nodded and gave the boy to the officer. "All right, take him out safely." The officers walked out, followed by some of their team members, and Jungkook turned around. "Why are you still here?" Wine parted her lips to speak, but the loud explosion startled her. She instinctively ducked, but Jungkook grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety behind the stacks of crates just as a piece of debris fell from above. "Sir, there are underground bombs fixed here. Come out." "Stay close to me. It's dangerous here," he mumbled, holding her close and leading the way. Wine clenched his shirt in her fist. His proximity quickened her pulse. "I must be out of my mind," she mumbled inaudibly, walking out of the warehouse. "Wine, are you okay? I was just so scared." Haslin rushed to her while Jungkook walked away, making sure she was fine. Wine hissed as Haslin pulled her into a bone-crushing hug. "Haslin, if you keep hugging me this way, I swear I wouldn't be fine anymore." Haslin swiftly pulled out and tucked the hair strand behind her ear. "I'm sorry, you just scared me," she said with a pout. Wine smiled and hugged her. Time skip. Wine felt a soft spot for Jungkook the other day, but it was soon replaced by deep hatred after discovering that most of the children went missing, and cherry on the top was Jungkook's appearance as a special guest at Dalton's party. Now Wayne was driving to the village where Datel's secret farmhouse was located. Wayne, what do you want to do? Why can't you just sit still? You'll be in deep trouble, stop being so impulsive. Wayne heard 𝐿's pissed voice from the other side of the phone. Her lips tugged into a slight smile. My only mission is to expose Dalton and his people. She shrugged her shoulders. 𝐿 took deep breaths to calm herself. You could have informed me, or you should have taken help from the police. What are they for? I knew you wouldn't let me go if I informed you, and as for the police, they are corrupt. They work on bribes. I couldn't take any risk. 𝐿 heard her with disbelief. Wayne, well done. I have never seen anyone as wise as you. You deserve applause, she said dramatically. You are a fool, believe me. You have taken risks. Can you imagine what will happen to you if Dalton's men find you sneaking into that farmhouse? You can find some other proofs. This is not the only way, Wayne. She said the last sentence helplessly. I have been working on this case for 4 months. It's time to expose him. I can't wait any longer, she said in a serious tone. 𝐿 huffed. I know what you mean, Wayne, but if exposing him was that easy, then the police would have done it before you. Stop mentioning police, 𝐿. They don't do anything. Don't you remember Officer John at Dalton's party? They are all involved. 𝐿 could only shake her head. You have joined the wrong field, Wayne. You should have been a lawyer. By the way, did you get the information from Layla's resources? Yes, she said Dalton's men will be in the basement at 7 and I have a chance to find something. 𝐿 rubbed her palm over her face. Don't trust her this much. I know you have been together since childhood, but still. Anyway, all the best. Please stay safe and keep in touch. Contact me if there's something. Wayne hummed and declined the call. Soon she reached for her destination and parked the car at a safe distance from the farmhouse. She crept through the underbush, her heart raced with nervousness and a hint of fear. She reached the edge of the clearing and crouched behind a large tree, pulling out her phone when she felt like she saw shadows from dimly lit windows moving inside. I must be careful, she muttered and approached the back entrance. It was pin-drop silence and Wayne could hear her heartbeat in her ears. She stepped forward cautiously, looking around and making her way to a hallway. She twisted the doorknob, but it was locked. She let out a frustrated sigh and checked other rooms, which were no different, while some of them were empty. She walked up the stairs and opened each door that came into her sight when her eyes lit. Here it is, she mumbled and entered the study room. Wayne scanned her eyes through the room and carefully checked the cupboards, flipping through files and documents, but found nothing substantial. As she moved towards the desk, her gaze landed on a mini cupboard beneath the desk. She knelt and tried the handle. It was locked. Wayne quickly picked the lock, a skill he had learned out of necessity. The cupboard opened, revealing a small digital locker. This must be it. Layla had mentioned it and the password. She thought and typed a few passwords. Her pulse quickened. On the third try, the locker clicked open. Inside were several files and a pen drive. She took them out with trembling and sweaty hands, glancing at her wristwatch. It had been minutes since she had been here. I must leave fast, she mumbled quickly, snapping the pictures of documents when she heard a deep voice. Someone seems to have sneaked into the study. Stay alert. Her heart sank. She swiftly pocketed the pen drive and her phone and closed the cupboard, placing everything as it was. She stood and rushed to the door but stopped, hearing footsteps coming closer. She hid behind the door. In a few seconds, the door burst open, revealing 3 guys. They stepped forward, checking through the room, while Wayne quietly stepped out as their back was facing her. She took a cautious breath, ready to make her escape when she heard a voice behind. There he is knocking. Panic surged through her veins. She bolted down the hallway, hearing footsteps echoing off the wall. As she reached the staircase, she grabbed anything she could find, vases, picture frames, even a small table, and hurled them behind her. Please help me, God, she prayed silently, but her hope was shattered when she saw 5 men blocking the bottom of the stairs. Stop her. Wayne didn't hesitate. She charged forward, landing a kick on the nearest man's shin and throwing a punch at the other's face. She fought with all her might, but they were too strong. They laughed at her feeble attempts, their eyes gleaming with malice. Within moments they had her pinned, her arms twisted behind her back painfully. "Take her to the room, I'll call the boss," the same guy whom she assumed to be the leader said, taking off her cap. "So whine." They dragged her into a room nearby. Her heart sank as those 8 to 9 guys surrounded her, pointing their guns at her. "Boss, we caught So Whine," the journalist snooping around. "What do you want us to do with her?" The leader passed her a cold stare and nodded. He declined the call, moving close to her and taking out her phone from her pocket. "Boss said do whatever you want to do with her and then kill her." He smashed her phone against the wall. Whine shook her head in denial. "Please leave me." Her blood ran cold seeing them exchanging meaningful glances. The leader walked out, followed by 3 men, leaving 5 behind. "Looks like we get to have some fun," one of them said, stepping towards her and touching her face. "Stay away, bastard," she punched him in the face. "Hold her." He growled, yelping in pain. 2 of the guys held her tightly and one of them set the phone to film her. I shook her head with horrified expression as the 2 guys smirked, staring at her lustfully. All of them laughed, mustering nasty words and rubbing their hands all over her body. Tears streamed down her face as she cried. They ripped at her clothes, leaving her half naked. Just when she thought all hope was lost, the door burst open. A figure dressed in all black with a mask covering his face stormed into the room. The man barely had time to react before he launched himself at them and shot them dead with his gun, his movements swift and precise. In the blink of an eye, all of them were lying on the floor. "Are you okay?" He grabbed her arm. "Officer John," she whispered, wiping her face. Jungkook wrapped his jacket around her and helped her stand. "We have to leave real quick." "Wait, get my phone." She mumbled, pointing at her broken phone. Jungkook picked up her phone and walked her out. He cautiously walked out of the house through a secret door and ran, disappearing into the forest, hearing footsteps and angry voices. The rain began pouring, drenching them both as they ran without looking behind. Wait, I can't run," she said, breathing heavily, and leaned on the tree, sliding down. Jungkook stared at her face, tears mixing with the rain. He crouched down. "We can't wait here. They're after us. My car is far away from this place." He rubbed her back gently as she coughed. While looked at her. "Please stop crying, it annoys me," he said with a frown. "Where will we go? I don't have any strength left." Jungkook pursed his lips when the torchlight flashed on him. "Damn it. Get on my back, they're here." Whine climbed on his back. He continued running until they reached a nearby village, finding shelter in an isolated cottage. Inside there were both soaked to the bone, their breaths heavy. Whine collapsed on the floor while Jungkook was trying to find signals and make a call. Whine's muffled sobs caught his attention. He turned to her. "What happened?" He kneeled beside her. She shook her head, wiping her face. "Nothing. I was scared. I thought I lost everything," she mumbled, staring at her palms. Jungkook let out a sigh, running his fingers through his wet hair. "Your tears annoys me to the core," he said through a clenched jaw and let out a deep breath. "Then why did you come here?" His cool voice sent chills down her spine. She bit her lips. "Do you know how dangerous they are? What would have happened if I hadn't reached on time? My friend informed everyone would be in the basement at this time and I need to expose Dalton." He glared at her. "You could have taken help from the police." She returned the same glare. "You are all the same people, traitors." He clenched his jaw. "Then why did you come here with me?" "I will leave. After all, I am a traitor, right?" He turned around. Whine swiftly clung onto his arm. "You can't leave me like this." He raised his brows, seeing her teary eyes. "I can't stand you crying. Stop it," he said spontaneously. She passed him a confused gaze. "It annoys me." He composed himself. She nodded. "What's wrong with me? I must have gone crazy," he thought. Next morning. Since last night, they both hadn't spoken a word. Now Jungkook was sitting, his shirt hanging to dry. He leaned on the wall, closing his eyes, trying to shake off the exhaustion of the last night. Whine sat in a corner, trying to smoothen her hair, lost in thoughts, when the sudden knock on the door made them both jump. Jungkook quickly stood up, his muscles tense. He glanced at Wine, who looked back at him with horrified eyes. "Stay here," he whispered, moving closer to the door. He pulled it open, hearing the noise. A group of villagers stood there, their expression a mix of anger and suspicion. "Yes," one of the old men stepped forward, his eyes narrowing at the sight of Jungkook's bare chest. "Who are you? What are you doing in our village?" he asked suspiciously. Wine stood behind Jungkook, tightening her grip on the jacket and trying to smoothen her tousled hair. Before Jungkook could respond, another villager spoke, glaring at Wine. "Who is she? Since when you are here?" Jungkook sighed, trying to keep his composure. "We were caught up in the rain and needed a place to stay for the night." He glanced at Wine and then at them. "She's my colleague." The villagers exchanged angry glances. "That means you are no one to each other. She's not your sister or wife." He shook his head. Wine's heart pounded against her chest, seeing their rage. "Yet you are here with her half naked in the same house. You have spent a night together. We don't tolerate such behavior in our village." "No sir, you are misunderstanding us." "Shut up, we don't allow such sinners here. You will be punished." The old woman gestured for some other woman to get Wine. She swiftly held Jungkook's arm. "What are you doing? You are getting wrong. I am a police officer. She is a journalist. We were here to find some evidence for a case." He tried to explain. They all exchanged glances, their expressions turning a bit normal. "But how do we believe you are not lying? Your condition says some other story." Jungkook pursed his lips, moving Wine behind his back. "Let me show you my ID card." He checked his pockets, but his eyes widened. "Darn it. What happened?" She tugged his arm. He shook his head. "Seems like I have lost it." "Don't make up stories. Come out, girl." "Why? What do you want to do with me?" She peeked from his back. "Kill you both." Jungkook passed him a cold stare. "Get her out. She will die first." The ladies held Wine and dragged her, but Jungkook stood between them and pulled her back. "You can't commit such a crime." "Really? Then why not marry her? We'll spare both of you." Their eyes widened as they glanced at each other. "No way." "All right, then die." "Wait, give me some time to talk it out." They exchanged glances and nodded. Standing at the side, Jungkook dragged Wine to a corner, putting on his shirt. "Listen, Miss Wine, this is the only way we can escape. Let's get married. We can divorce once we return." She glared at him and spoke with disdain. "I won't marry a traitor." He clenched his jaw. "Since last night you have been clinging to this traitor." He shook his head, "As if I am dying to marry you. But if I didn't marry you, I would surely die because of you. Don't forget you are the one that caused it all." She parted her lips to speak when the old lady walked in. "If you don't want to marry, we will burn both of you together. We'll get married. Such ignorant people still exist. I never knew." She muttered while the old lady went to inform others. Few days later. It's been 3 to 4 days since Wine and Jungkook returned, while Dalton's men were after her. Jungkook brought her to his house to make sure she was safe. Wine contacted 𝐿 and her father through Jungkook and told them she was fine. 𝐿 insisted on knowing what had happened. Wine told her she would tell her everything once they meet. Now Wine had cooked for Jungkook as she felt bored all day doing nothing while Jungkook had hectic days. He barely had time to scratch his hair. Now it was past 1:30 a.m. and Wine had fallen asleep. Jungkook entered exhaustedly when his gaze landed on the lights in the dining room. He made his way to the dining room and a smile tugged into his lips at the sight of Wine. He stepped close to her and brushed the hair behind her ear, revealing her delicate features. He gently caressed her cheek with his thumb, glancing at the food placed on the table. "Never did I think you would be my wife. Life is so unpredictable," he mumbled, staring at her and moving back as Wine stared. "Am I dreaming or you're back?" she muttered rosily, rubbing her eyes. Jungkook chuckled and leaned to her. "Glad to know you dream about me," he said in a low tone, caressing her hair. Wine almost jumped and sat straight. "You're back," he hummed, not taking his eyes off her. "Go and change, I'll heat the food until then." She stood feeling nervous under his piercing gaze. He nodded and walked away while Wine released her breath that she was holding unknowingly. "What's wrong with you?" she muttered, placing her hand on her chest, and walked into the kitchen. After some time, they were both sitting and eating in silence. "How is it?" she asked, looking at him curiously. Jung looked at her with his red eyes. "You cooked it for me. Of course, is there anyone else?" His lips stuck into a smile. "I didn't know you were a good cook, other than a troublemaker." He smiled, but soon it faded, hearing his sentence fully. "It's been long since someone cooked for me and waited for me." She slammed the table. "I didn't cook for you, neither did I wait for you," she said and stood, but he swiftly gripped her wrist. "Sit and eat. You must not want to eat with a troublemaker." She rolled her eyes, struggling to get free from his grip. Jungkook chuckled, pulling her back on the chair. "I was just kidding." She rolled her eyes. "Anyways, I want to talk about something." He passed her a questioning gaze. "Can you repair my phone? I have some evidence in it." "Sure, give it to me. I will get it repaired in a few days." She nodded. "Can I trust you?" He raised his brows and pushed away the plate. "You still can't trust me, even after you became John Wayne. Why are you still here if you don't trust me? I saved you in Dalton's farmhouse from the villagers, and even now I'm protecting you, yet you can't trust me," he said in a serious tone. "Let's clear it out." She leaned forward. "I have seen you with Dalton many times. His personal bodyguard gave you something in the envelope," she said in a low tone, lowering her head. "You have been stalking me." "Don't flatter yourself, I was stalking Dalton." "No, don't change the subject. If that makes you trust me, then I'll tell you. It's a part of my job. Dalton's personal guard is my man. He gave the recorder and pen drive to use against Dalton." She nodded in acknowledgement. "I have got some pictures on my phone. It can be used against Dalton. I had a pen drive, but I think it fell somewhere in the forest or his farmhouse." "Did you get it from the study?" he asked with surprise. She nodded. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "That was why I went to his farmhouse that day." He ran his fingers through his hair. "I didn't know it. It's okay, I'll go and search for it." He went silent and fixed his gaze on her. "Learn to trust me, Wayne. You are my wife." Her heartbeat raced wildly. She stared at him without blinking. "By the way, how did you go to Dalton's farmhouse?" "My childhood friend Layla gave me all the information about it, and she told me to go as his men wouldn't be there, but I don't know how they came." She mumbled, clenching her fist. All the events of that day flashed before her eyes. Jungkook held her hand. "Don't trust others too much. Even if she's your childhood friend, she gave you the wrong information. Why would Dalton not keep his guards around? He can't be that careless." She looked at him surprised. She hadn't thought about this aspect. "Let's go and sleep, it's late." He patted her cheek and stood while Wayne nodded absent-mindedly. Many things were going through her mind. Time skip. Wayne and Jungkook got along well. He earned Wayne's trust. He also repaired her phone and got the evidence against Dalton, except for the pen drive. She also contacted Layla and told her everything, including her unexpected marriage to Jungkook. Now Wayne was staring at the television screen when Jungkook's voice startled her. "Wayne!" She flinched, placing her hand on her chest. "You scared me." She stood staring at his serious expression. "What's wrong? How come you arrived early?" She glanced at the wall clock. Jungkook cleared his throat and moved close to her. "I want to tell you something." She gestured for him to carry on. "That friend of yours, Layla, she has revealed our marriage to the media, and Dalton discovered you are under my protection." She frowned. "Impossible. Why would she do that? I had told her to keep a secret. You must have misunderstood." He shook his head. "No, I didn't misunderstand anything. She even sent you to the farmhouse and warehouse deliberately. Her cousin who worked for Dalton is in my custody. He told me everything, but if you still don't believe me, let Layla tell you." She stared at him in disbelief. "Bring her in." Two lady officers dragged Layla inside. Wayne's heart sank, seeing the hatred in her eyes. She took baby steps towards her. "Layla," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. "He misunderstood, right? You didn't deceive me." Layla chuckled. "Stop fooling around, Wayne. He's right. I deceived you. I did everything that he said to you." Layla said through gritted teeth. Wayne's heart shattered. Jungkook stood beside her, holding her hand. "But why? We have been together since childhood. I never thought you would do this to me," she barely whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Why?" "Because I hate you. I hate you so much I wish you die someday. I wanted you to get killed in Dalton's house. That's why I lied to you, and you being a fool trusted me blindly." Her tone reeked hatred. Wayne stared at her in disbelief. Jungkook clenched his jaw. You have made my life miserable. Since childhood, everyone has your name on their mouth, even my family. Wine this, wine that, wine scored this much marks. Wine won gold medal, wine exposed trade, wine is about to expose Dalton, wine achieved this, that. I'm fed up with it. My parents can never be satisfied with me until you are here. You have got everything, even an amazing husband. She glared at their intertwined hands. But what did I get? Nothing. Jungkook lost his patience and freed Wine's hand, strangling Layla. Make yourself capable enough to satisfy your parents rather than hating others. He growled, tightening his hold around her throat. Jungkook, leave her. She held his hand, trying to release her from his grip. Leave, Jungkook. He released her, releasing a deep breath. Layla stumbled backward. Take her away. They took her out while Wine sat on the couch. He went and sat beside her. She sobbed silently. He took her hand gently. Every time he sees her crying, he feels a deep ache in his heart. Don't torture your eyes for some useless people. Seeing you cry is not something I can ignore, he said in a low tone, staring at her. She sniffed. I know you get annoyed by my tears, she whispered, wiping her face with her sleeve. Jungkook let out a sigh and pulled her into his embrace. Did I say that now? He held her chin gently and tilted her head. She shook her head as tears streamed down her face. Jungkook enveloped her in a hug. She nestled close to him, crying her heart out. I want to take away all your pain. It drives me insane that you have managed to crawl under my skin. Would you ask for divorce once everything settles? He muttered in a low tone, but Wine didn't hear him out. Why would she do this to me? I never thought she hated me so much. He caressed her hair. Some people lose everything due to their jealousy. They destroy everything with their own hands. He placed a soft kiss on her hair. She tilted her head upward, placing her chin on his chest and looked at him. I'm sorry I just ruined your shirt. He shook his head. No worries. He mumbled, rubbing his thumb over her swollen eyelids. You wouldn't cry anymore. He leaned and kissed her eyes softly. Wine felt a blush creeping up on her face. Jungkook stared at her face affectionately. Will you divorce me after everything sorts out? He raised his brows. Actually, my mom has seen a girl for me and she wants me to get married. Wine frowned. But you are married. He shrugged his shoulders. Yes, but she doesn't know that and I can't tell her after all you want to divorce me, right? She clenched her jaw and pulled away. Aren't you too eager for divorce? He leaned back on the couch, took her hand. Leave. Go and hold your soon-to-be wife's hand. She glared at him, trying to break free. Jungkook placed her hand on his chest. For now, I want to hold my current wife. She looked away, trying hard to calm herself. Anyways, I had this question in my mind. How did you got to know about Dalton's illegal work? I mean, he has worn a mask of a perfect and kind-hearted businessman. She let out a sigh, leaning back on the couch. Dalton's brother Ren had killed my brother, his wife, and my little nephew. My brother was a lawyer and he almost exposed Ren, but Ren killed him before that. He sent the videos of them to my father. I was with my father abroad back then. I vowed I won't leave him, but Dalton killed Ren out of greed. I came back here to expose all these people. Her tone was devoid of any emotion. Her sister-in-law and nephew's cries rang in her ears. Her brother's dead body flashed before her eyes. She shook her head and blinked her tears. He leaned forward with a mix of emotions. I'm sorry. He regretted asking her. She forced a smile. It's okay. She released her hand from his and placed her head on his shoulder. I missed him so much. She began talking about how she loved her nephew and how smart he was at the age of 4. Jungkook calmly listened to her with a smile until she fell asleep. I never thought you would mean to me so much. It breaks something inside me seeing you in a vulnerable state. He mumbled, kissing her temple and tightening his grip around her. Few days later, Jungkook finally found the pen drive in the forest with the help of his team. He leaked all the evidence against Dalton with the help of 𝐏𝐶. 𝐏𝐶 learned about Layla and requested Jungkook to let her meet Wine. Wine was beyond happy seeing 𝐏𝐶. Meanwhile, Jungkook and Wine had harbored deep feelings for each other, but none of them confessed. Today, Jungkook called Wine in the morning and informed her that he would be arresting Dalton today. Wine was relieved, knowing a tyrant would be finally ousted. Now it was 3 in the morning, but Jungkook hadn't arrived home yet. She prayed he was fine and dialed his number, but his phone went unanswered. Negative thoughts clouded her mind and her vision blurred, knowing well how dangerous Dalton was and that he wouldn't let anyone arrest him so easily. Her heart sank while she trembled when the door creaked open, grabbing her attention. Jungkook entered, closing the door behind him. Wine felt as if she saw a light in the dark. "Jungkook, you're back," she mumbled and drew close to him. He smiled and nodded, walking in her direction when she sprinted to him and hugged him tightly, taking him off guard. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked worriedly as she cried on his chest. "Why was your phone switched off? I was scared." Jungkook noticed her trembling. He swept her off the floor and walked to the couch. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry you. My phone was dead and, as you know, I had to arrest Dalton, so I had a hectic day." He rubbed her back gently, still holding her and sitting on the couch. He settled her on his lap. She sniffed and pulled away. "I hate this feeling." "What feeling?" she whispered, wiping her face. "Helplessness. I hate it when your tears make me feel helpless. It's maddening me." He kissed her eyes. "You could have at least texted me." She pressed her forehead with his and closed her eyes. "I'm sorry, I had to make sure all those kids were sent to their house safely, and then my colleagues wanted a treat from me, so I went with them. I thought you might be asleep by now." "You're so reckless." She pulled his hair. He groaned slightly. "Those kids that went missing after the warehouse mission." He nodded and kissed her cheek. "Their parents weren't found, so we had to keep them safe and fake a rumor." She nodded, caressing his face with the back of her hand. "Mom wants me to get married in the next 15 days. She stared at him with surprise. Jungkook pressed his lips to stop his smile. "What?" He nodded innocently. "Then go get married." She growled furiously and pushed him. Before she could get off his lap, Jungkook gripped her waist. "You want to fight for me? Is it that hard for you to accept your love for me?" He asked in a serious tone. She stared at him with wide eyes. "I know, so don't try to deny it. I'm just scared of being rejected." He raised his brows. "Can't you see the emotions in my eyes? Can't you understand my feelings? Why would I care about you and be affectionate if I don't love you?" She let out a sigh and lowered her head. "I thought I might be hallucinating. I'm sorry." She looked at him and cupped his face. "Please don't be mad." She pecked his nose. He rolled his eyes. "I won't fall for it." She stared at him helplessly. "Mom has fixed our marriage once again. After 15 days, and your father will be landing here soon." "Really?" "She knows. Dad also knows he's coming," she exclaimed happily. Jungkook nodded with a smile and pinched her nose. "You almost gave me a heart attack. I love you so much." She kissed him on the lips. "I would have told you earlier if I knew you would react this way," he said with a smirk and smashed his lips onto hers.